I'm going to turn things over to our analyst, Anya McDonald, to talk about redistricting. This is really, I think, going to be one of the things that shapes the discussion around the next year is the impact of redistricting, lots of shifting around, as you'll see, in terms of legislators retiring, legislators running for different offices, legislators running against each other, legislators who still don't know what they're going to do. It is really a once in a 10-year reshuffle in terms of the legislative landscape. So I'm going to turn it over to Anya to dive into that.
All right, thank you, Bradley. Again, my name is Anya McDonald. I'm the policy analyst with the coalition. And it's great to be presenting on this topic as this only happens once every 10 years. So I put together some charts and maps to show you kind of what the changes are here from redistricting. So we have another polling question for you. How closely have you followed the redistricting process and new district lines? So I'm an expert. I'm vaguely aware of where all the lines fell. I'm only aware of my own district changes, or I've not paid attention at all. Okay, close the poll. All right, it looks like a lot of you paid attention to your own districts, but today we'll share with you kind of what happened overall. Okay, so kind of as an overview, the 22 congressional and legislative maps were released on February 15th by the courts. And these maps have been described as least change maps generally. So not a lot of major surprises happened. But the House and Senate members have seemed to generally agree that they think these map results are fair. And as you may know, cities have from February 15th to March 29th to establish or reestablish your wards and precincts. And so as a result of the 2020 census, Minnesota's population has grown pretty significantly from 5.3 million to 5.7 million. So that's 400,000 people increased. And so since 2010, the 7 metro counties all grew in population, and actually 44 greater Minnesota counties grew, which is more counties than lost population. So greater Minnesota is growing as well. More districts are shifting towards the metro as we see these populations changed, and we'll go a little bit more into detail on that through the presentation. And there are quite a few more pairings of incumbent members this time around than we saw in 2012. So I wanted to give you kind of an election calendar of what we're going to see this year as far as campaigns and the races that are going to happen. So May 8th is a date that legislative candidates must establish residency in the district they intend on running in. So maybe they'll buy a house or rent a place somewhere, but they must be living in that district. And then the filing period for a candidate is between May 17th to 31st. So they must choose where they plan on running for that race. And then August 9th this year is the state primary, and November 8th is the state general election. And so in your packet, you do have printouts of some of these maps if you want to take a little closer look. So we provided those to you. So it might be kind of small up here on the screen. But we'll start with the congressional maps. So as you can see on the left is 2012 and the right is 2022. And so the ideal population for 2012 for a congressional district was 662,000, and that jumped up to 713,000 for 22. We'll zoom in a little bit more on this updated congressional map. The biggest change to the map was Congressional District 2 lost Goodhue and Wabasha counties, and they were replaced by Le Sueur and slightly more of Washington County. Also, all 7 of Minnesota's Anishinaabe reservations are now represented in one district, Congressional District 8. So you can see that black arrow on the top left kind of grabbed that last reservations so that they're all represented together now. And sadly, Congressman Jim Hagedorn, who represented District 1, passed away on February 17th, 2 days after the maps were released. And so this requires a special election for his old seat. And that's actually going to happen on the same day as the primary for the new seat. And so there's a lot of questions swirling around about who might run for this seat and announcements that are continuing to happen. So now we'll go to the Minnesota Senate maps. So here on the left are the 2012 maps, and on the right are the current updated 2022 maps. And the population increased from 79,163 to 85,172. So that's about a 6,000 person increase for each Senate district. We wanted to zoom in on a couple interesting locations here. So here's Mankato and Fairmont. As you can see on the left, Senator Rosen and Senator Draheim each had their own Senate district. But with the new maps, they actually paired Senator Rosen and Senator Draheim's districts together. And so you can see it's a really long, kind of funny looking district. And it actually spans from Fairmont all the way up to New Prague, which is a 100-mile distance to drive. So it's a pretty significantly long district. And Senator Rosen has announced that she plans to retire. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then also in the Albert Lee and Austin area, you can see we had Senator Dornick, Senator Nelson, and Senator Senjem all having their own districts. But now you can see that Senator Nelson and Senator Dornick are paired together. And it's been announced that Senator Dornick plans on moving south to represent his old district of Albert Lee. And so that's kind of a shift that we saw happen. And also you can see Rochester's district really shrunk significantly. And then here's just a closer zoom in look at the Senate Metro. And again, you can see this in your packets if you want to look a little closer. But as we can see that it really is just kind of the districts in the Metro are getting a little bit smaller as the population grew. So now we'll talk about the senators that were paired together. There were 10 in total senators that were paired together in districts. And in the red are the Republican members paired together. Purple were the members of 2 parties. And then blue are 2 DFL members paired together. And so these pairings are causing a lot of shifts and retirements happening as a result of them being paired together. So here is a chart of senators who are either retiring or seeking higher office or other office as a result of being paired together. And so in this table, if you can see, it shows their new district, their name, their party, what office they're seeking, and how many terms they've served in the Senate. So that's kind of interesting to look and see how long they've been around in their district. So a few notable ones are Senator Gazelka is running for governor, as well as Senator Benson. Senator Jerry Newton's actually running for the House seat in his district of Coon Rapids. And Carla Bigham's running for Washington County Commissioner, a seat she has previously held. So there's 16 total senators that are retiring or seeking a different office. So here's a map of the open seats in the Senate. There are 20 open seats. And an open seat is defined as a district where no current incumbent senator lives or where a current incumbent senator has announced retirement. So this could be potentially 30% of the Senate having fresh faces. Now we'll turn to the Minnesota House maps. In 2012, the district size was 39,582, and that increased to 42,586. So about 3,000 people added to each House district. And as you can see, the colors actually kind of match between the 2 maps for the district numbers. So it kind of is helpful to see where districts may have shifted around a little bit, but they did kind of reorder the numbers as well. And here's a zoom in of the House Metro. Now we'll talk about House members who are paired together. So the red, again, are 2 Republican members paired together. Purple are where 2 different parties where there will be a face-off. And blue is 2 DFL members who are paired together. And this is just ordered by their district number. So this is 21 in total House members were paired together, or 21 total seats were paired together. So that caused quite a few retirements and seeking different office in the House, 24 in total. So here on the left in the chart, you can see the name of the member, their party, and how many terms they've served. So there's some members who have served a significant amount of time in the Minnesota House. Paul Marquardt with 11, Jim Davney with 11, Carlos Mariani with 16, and Alice Hausman with 17 terms served. And then on the right, you can see House members seeking other office. Kind of interesting is you'll see Jeremy Monson running for Congress, Ryan Winkler running for Hennepin County Attorney, and Rena Moran running for Ramsey County Commissioner. Then the other ones are all running for Senate. And you'll see Steve Drazkowski and Barb Haley are both running for the same Senate seat. And one other one, Mike Sundin apparently announced last night that he is also retiring. He's from the Cloquet-Esco area, so 25 total. And then here's just a map of the open districts in the Minnesota House. So no current incumbent member lives in the district, or the member is no longer seeking office. And so that's 35 open districts in the House. And so we could potentially see 26% of fresh new faces in the Minnesota House next year. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Bradley. He's going to kind of go into what this means for Greater Minnesota and some more political implications.
All right, thank you, Anya. You know, as she pointed out, there are going to be a lot of retirements, a lot of changes, a lot of people running for different offices. There are going to be the level of shifting around, I think, is really going to be pretty unprecedented, even for a redistricting year where you do see a higher level of turnover and change. For Greater Minnesota, I'm going to see if I can. For Greater Minnesota, you know, there are a number of pretty high profile changes and retirements. First off, Senator David Tomassoni, who spent most of his career as a Democrat. The last 2 sessions has been an independent and caucusing with the Republicans, along with Senator Bach. He is retiring due to his struggle with ALS. And so he has been a great advocate for the Iron Range specifically, Greater Minnesota generally, economic development, higher education, K-12 education, you name it. And so he is a great loss in terms of his role in the Senate and for Greater Minnesota. Senator Scott Newman is the transportation chair. He is retiring after several years in the Senate. I think probably one of the most impactful retirements here is Senator Julie Rosen, who is the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, represented the Fairmont area for many, many years. She was a leader on energy, economic development, really just a force to be reckoned with, and always very supportive of Greater Minnesota initiatives. And so she takes with her a long time amount of experience and knowledge and understanding, especially of state budget issues. Senator Paul Gazelka, of course, is running for governor. And then Senator Bill Ingebrigtsen from the Alexandria area is retiring. He was very influential in areas related to the environment and public safety, being a former sheriff. So some pretty significant losses there. And I think one of the things that we see, and we haven't done the analysis recently, but has been borne out in the past, is it is really difficult for Greater Minnesota to lose legislators with a long tenure, because generally they don't have as long a tenure as many of the metro areas legislators do, because serving from the metro area is just easier. You get to go home at night. You get to see your family more often. You don't spend, 3 hours driving to a meeting on the other side of your district. And so when you get losses of this type with this kind of tenure for Greater Minnesota, it is definitely very, very impactful. On the House side, some notable changes. The biggest one clearly is House Tax Chair Paul Marquardt. He has been our champion on local government aid. He is the guy when it comes to that program and making sure that it works for Greater Minnesota. He's been in for 11 sessions, certainly put in his time, was a mayor before that, and is retiring. That's going to be a big loss. Another big one is going to be Representative Rod Hamilton, who's just got one of the biggest hearts in the legislature, just a good guy, always trying to figure out what the right thing to do is, what the right thing for his constituents are, what the right thing for his districts are. He is most notable for his vote to override Governor Plenty's veto of the gas tax back in 2008. So we're sad to see him leave. And then this motley crew of four down here are what we refer to as the four horsemen. These are members of the new Republican caucus who formed a couple of years ago as a breakaway from the regular Republicans. Representative Drazkowski, Tim Miller, Cal Barr, and Jeremy Munson. 3 of the 4 of those are running for a different office. As you heard, Representative Munson is running for Congress. Cal Barr and Drazkowski are running for Senate, and then Tim Miller is just retiring outright. That's just going to change the dynamic in the Republican caucus. They were kind of a thorn in the side of Kurt Doubt and some of what I would call the more establishment type Republicans. They wanted to push the edge, didn't think the caucus was conservative enough. And so them not being there will actually change the dynamic in that caucus quite a bit and make it just a different entity to work with, especially if the Republicans take the majority and the margin is very tight. So again, some pretty significant changes. Again, Paul Marquardt, probably the biggest one of the lot there. So as you look at where the seats fell out, you've got in 2010, 31.1 of the seats in the Senate. These overlap a little bit with metro counties and such, so we decimalize them. We're in Greater Minnesota. With the new apportionment, that goes down to 29.9. So we're losing over a full seat there in terms of Greater Minnesota strength in the Senate. Likewise, in the House, losing, whoops, wrong button. Losing seats going from 62 to roughly 60 in Greater Minnesota, and then from about 72 to 74 for the metro. And so again, what you would expect as the population changes, as the population shifts towards the metro, more and more districts are going to be concentrated in the metro. But I think that, on paper, as you look at the overall political implications, both the House and the Senate are going to continue to be closely contested. As Anya mentioned, what the court did was really sort of a least change map. And if you compare the 2 maps side by side of either the House or the Senate, you can really see where they took the existing district and either expanded it a little bit or shrunk it a little bit. They didn't change the geographic orientation of the districts very much. And they didn't do a lot of fooling around with the basic arrangement. And so, we have a closely divided legislature right now. On paper, again, all things being even, I think we continue to see that. Again, the basic geography of our politics will persist with the GOP dominating rural-based districts and further out exurbs, with the DFL holding the Minneapolis-St. Paul seats, the inner ring suburbs, and then the larger Greater Minnesota regional centers, Duluth, Mankato, places like that. And then the third ring suburbs and the closer in exurbs will continue to be the most contested districts. As I noted, for Greater Minnesota, slight erosion of legislative power, but not as much as it could have been. Again, because the court took that sort of least change approach. I think had the legislature passed a map on their own, you probably would have seen greater changes. Again, significant loss of experience and influence, as we just spoke about. Lots of new legislators to educate, no matter who is in control of the legislature. There are going to be a lot of new faces that we're going to have to get to know, that we're going to have to teach about our issues and bring to our way of thinking on things. And finally, as I mentioned, the landscape of the legislature really doesn't change that much in terms of continuing to be very, very closely divided. All right, pick up your signaling device again. What do you think will be the outcome of the legislative elections this November? Is it House and Senate will continue to be split between the parties? We're going to have complete DFL control. We're going to have complete GOP control, or it is too close to call. All right. Everybody got their answers in? Let's see what we got. All right. Looks like a preponderance are going to say that we're going to have a split between the parties, and the others are too close to call, which kind of almost are the same thing in a lot of ways. So interesting. Not a lot of optimism about complete DFL control, and a little bit more confidence in the idea that the Republicans might take complete control. We will see. We will see, obviously, or we won't see. Who knows? Let's see here. All right, so we haven't really talked about the governor's race, but obviously that's something coming up as well. Who do you think will win the governor's race in November? Is it going to be Governor Walz? Is it going to be one of his GOP challengers? It's really going to depend on who the GOP nominates. There's also a third-party candidate who just got in under the Forward Party banner, which is the Andrew Yang creation, WCCO radio guy by the name of Corey Hepala. He just announced yesterday. So who knows how that will change the dynamic. All right, so what will happen with the governor's race? Too bad Governor Walz isn't going to be here. We could have shared the results with him. Given him a little foresight of what the future holds. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so most folks think that Governor Walz, or a plurality think that Governor Walz will win. 16% think one of the GOP challengers, and I think 38% or so said it really depends on who the GOP nominates, which I think is a true statement. I think that Governor Walz, to my estimation, is vulnerable, but it's going to really depend on who is running against him. And the CGMC board has been meeting with GOP candidates to kind of get to know them, ask them some questions about their views on things. The board has a couple more meetings tomorrow. Those have been very interesting in how little some of these people know about things they should know about. So we'll find out how that continues to go, and we'll report on those in the CGMC in brief. Oh, I got to do this again. Good thing I wore my watch so I can track my steps back and forth here. All right, at the state level, what is the most important election issue to residents of your city? So this is what you think is going to be important to them. We've got the environment, public safety, inflation, economy, equity, COVID restrictions, or education. So this isn't what you think is the most important. I want you to think about your constituents and what do you think they're going to be thinking about as they vote this November. All right, let's see here. Oh, we got a few more who still can clock in. I'll give you 3 more seconds. Yeah, I think that's right. I think inflation and the economy will certainly play a big part. I do also think that public safety is going to be a significant discussion, especially in the metro suburbs. You're going to hear a lot from Republican candidates talking about how scary Minneapolis and St. Paul is, rightly or not. But I think you will hear quite a bit about public safety. And I agree that inflation in the economy certainly will be one of those as well. Not a lot of talk about the environment, not a lot of talk about equity, COVID restrictions a little bit, education a little bit. Very, very interesting. I would have thought inflation in the economy would be up there, but I'm not close to 80%. So that's interesting. Oh, got to do this again. All right. Any questions about redistricting or the impact? We can take a couple of questions if there are any. So now if we did the first question, you'd all click that you're experts. You've all got it down. All right.